Have you ever stopped to think about what your tiniest habits actually say about you? I mean, from the second you wake up to the moment your head hits the pillow, your brain is running this kind of secret program in the background. Well, today, we're going to decode some of that hidden psychology behind a totally normal day in your life.
So let's just jump right in. What if everything you do, the way you snap at a small annoyance, or even how you shake someone's hand, what if it's all a message from deep inside your subconscious? Let's try to crack that code together, starting from the very moment that alarm clock goes off.
All right, part one, decoding your inner self. We're starting with the morning routine because that's where the first little psychological clues of the day start showing up, way before you've even had to talk to another person. Now, this is pretty cool. If you're one of those people who mutters to yourself while you're getting ready, don't worry, you're not going crazy. In fact, it turns out that little monologue, whether it's in your head or out loud, can actually sharpen your mind, boost your mood, and even build up your confidence. It's kind of like having your own built-in personal coach. But our bodies can send some pretty interesting signals too. For instance, there's this idea in pop psychology that getting super angry over something tiny, like spilling your coffee, might be a hint that you're lacking affection. And things like constantly fidgeting or, always clinging to your phone, they're sometimes seen as little clues about our emotional state. Not a diagnosis, obviously, but just subtle hints from our subconscious.
So what about wanting to be alone? Psychology gives us this fascinating contradiction. On one hand, you've got the theory that really smart people just prefer their own company. But then on the other hand, there's this old warning that choosing to be alone is the first step toward madness. So how can both be right? Well, it probably all comes down to why you're alone. Choosing solitude to focus and think, that can be a sign of genius. But being forced into isolation, that can be incredibly damaging. It's a real paradox, and it just shows how complicated our need for connection and solitude really is.
Okay, here's a fun little tidbit for you. If I hand you a brand new pen, what's the very first thing you're going to write with it? If you said your own name, well, you're not alone. Apparently, a whopping 97% of us do exactly that. It's just this simple, automatic impulse to stake our claim on the world. And, while writing your name is all about your identity, the second you step outside, the rest of the world starts forming its own opinions about you, and they often do it based on some really surprising first impressions.
Which brings us to part two, the art of connection. So now we're out in the social world, where every little interaction is a chance to connect, or, let's be honest, to be judged. Let's look at the psychology behind all that.
So you might spend all this time on your hair or practicing your smile, but one study found something that's kind of wild. The first thing most people use to judge you is your shoes. Seriously. It's like this quick, subconscious scan of your personality, your status, and how much you care about the details. So, want to make a good impression? Here are two super simple psychological tips. First, use someone's name when you talk to them. It creates this instant bond and makes them feel like you actually see them. And second, pay attention to the handshake. If someone holds on just a second longer than you expect, it's not always weird. It can actually be a sign of major confidence. And what about making friends? There's this interesting theory out there that says maybe we should be a little careful about those friendships that seem to happen overnight. The idea is that these super fast bonds might not be as stable and might even be more likely to lead to betrayal than the friendships that take their time to grow. And here's a quick one from the 9-to-5 world. If you're someone who gets genuinely annoyed when a coworker interrupts you while you're in the zone, well, take it as a good sign. Apparently, that instinct to protect your focus is directly linked to being a better, more effective worker. Part 3, the psychology of attraction. Okay, now for one of the most powerful, confusing, and amazing forces in our lives. Let's see what these psychological ideas have to say about love and relationships. So, despite all the stereotypes, one popular claim is that boys actually tend to fall in love faster than girls. It suggests that men are often quicker to feel and, actually say those three little words. So what is it that sparks attraction? Well, one theory says a deep voice in a man is a really big deal, probably because it's linked to confidence. And then there's this one, which is a little poignant. Some psychologists believe that if you catch yourself talking about an ex all the time, it might just mean you're still in love with them. Okay, this one is tough. It's a direct piece of advice from our sources. The idea here is that if you give your love and affection away too freely, like it costs you nothing, the other person might start to take it for granted, to devalue it. It's a really provocative thought about the
economics of a relationship. And that brings us to our last section, your mind after dark. So as the day winds down, our brains enter this totally different phase of creativity and problem solving. So what really happens when the lights go out? Are you a night owl? Well, you are in some pretty good company. There's an idea that people who stay up late tend to be more creative, more intelligent, and actually better at making decisions. It's like your brain is just hitting its stride while everyone else is fast asleep. But what if you can't sleep? You're just lying there, wide awake? Well, there are a few intriguing possibilities. One is almost magical, the idea that you're awake in someone else's dream. Another is that someone who cares about you was thinking of you right before they drifted off. Of course, the more scientific culprits are probably stress, or just the fact that your brain's most active period is in the early evening. You know, as we think about the day and about how our brains kind of churn through our problems overnight, this piece of wisdom feels just right. It's a great reminder that even when things feel dark, hope is an incredibly powerful psychological tool to get us ready for whatever the next day brings. So after this whole journey through a day of hidden psychological cues, what's the big takeaway? What's the one crucial thing to remember? It really boils down to the single powerful idea: your thoughts literally shape your reality. The things you think about day in and day out eventually become who you are. Which leaves us with just one final, very personal question. If your thoughts are the blueprints for the person you're becoming, what exactly are you building in this very moment? Definitely something to think about.